Hey, welcome back here to the Central PA Pour. I am Brett. If you can look off to my left, Mr. Kevin is back in the house.
How are you?
And off to my right, Mr. Dave.
There we go.
Everybody doing good?
Yep.
2024 kicking off right?
Is it 2024 already? Holy cow. I was wondering what those big sparklers in the sky were the other night.
Well, it's not 1924, Dave. In your case, maybe 1824.
Oh, man.
You know who controls the microphones for this podcast? I can make you sound like Donald Duck. You already sound like him anyway, but I mean.
Yeah, and I got the face for radio, so we're good. So we hope your 2024 is going well. We have a gentleman sitting in studio here. We're going to bring him in here in a minute. But make sure you give us a like and subscribe on all our social media platforms at Central PA Pour and wherever you get your audio podcast. And, give us a like. We love doing this stuff. We're having fun. We're getting to meet new people, introducing you to the South Central area and beyond for craft beer and distilleries or wineries. So we love doing it, and we do it for you guys. Anything you guys get for Christmas?
Got a new laptop.
Oh, you got a laptop?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. I kind of opted out of the. I've been kind of whining for a white Stratocaster. And
You don't play no more.
well, no, I don't.
Not
go,
with the guitar, anyways.
I don't go out. Okay. I don't go out on stage and play anymore, but occasionally I'll play for myself. But
That's cool.
I've always wanted. Always wanted
White Stratocaster.
wanted a Stratocaster.
Maybe Santa will be good to you in 2024.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But the thing of it is that I kind of opted out of that, and I said I really need a new laptop.
Well, Santa was good then.
Yep.
How about you, Kev?
Just got the wife a dishwasher, and
Oh, so you were on the shit list.
yeah. Now I'm painting, so definitely on the shit list.
Well, we hope everything was good. Your holidays are good. We can't believe 2024 is here. And let's welcome in this gentleman into our studio. Welcome to the Central PA Pour.
How's it going?
How's it going?
Good.
So who do we have sitting in studio with us?
So my name is Mark Brownworth. I'm the head of brewery operations for Lancaster Brewing Company.
Lancaster
Welcome.
Brewing. And welcome. And you guys have been around for a long time in this industry.
With Stouts closing, we are now the oldest, I think, in Lancaster County. Since 95, with some operations going on in 94. So 27 going on.
It's a long time.
Wait, my math. My math right now.
I'd say you're probably
20
one of the
years.
original locations for craft beer in this South Central area.
Yeah. We always like to say our milk stout is the OG. The original. I think there's always some back and forth between us and Left Hand out in Colorado, but
Sure.
we are the original craft milk stout. And in all of that, it's kind of crazy to think that I am only the third brewmaster or head of brewery operations since inception.
Wow.
So we've had some good guys work through the past, and they've been able to keep us up to this point, and I'm hopefully going to keep us going.
How big of an area do you guys cover now? I mean, locations and.
So we are in, I want to say 7 states plus DC.
Okay. Wow.
So New York, New Jersey, PA, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. Did I say New York?
Yeah.
And then DC. We were in West Virginia for a little bit, kind of pulled back. But there's still talk of Connecticut and potentially Ohio, since we're already going all the way out to Pittsburgh. So might as well just jump over the border.
That'd be cool. I mean, Pittsburgh's a growing area as well. Philadelphia, all that. I mean, Pennsylvania's growing in this community, in this beer industry.
Right.
500 or something?
Oh, I think we're higher than that.
Higher than that?
I know we battle back and forth for overall annual production between, I would say we're in the top 3 usually. Some of that comes from Yingling, obviously, and Sam Adams. But I want to say we're over 500.
Wow.
And
It's
there's
just-
even with closings, they're still opening.
Right. we've mentioned that. I mean, for
know?
everyone that closes, there's another one right behind it opening up or expanding.
It's sometimes more. Like
Yeah.
one closes, 4 pop up. It's like a Hydra kind of thing. You know, cut one head off and
Yeah.
3 more take its place. So
Yeah, so kudos for being the head brewmaster, brewery operations, whatever you want to call yourself.
Yeah.
To me, you're the head brewer right now for tonight's episode.
I just always I hate putting master in front of anything. I think Kung Fu Master. You know, I'm not,
Bruce Lee.
not quite there yet, but
You're not the first one to state that.
yeah. And it's again, it's the old school style with any industry. You know, when you were making shoes, you were the cobbler master.
Right.
Or making barrels, you're the cooperage master.
And anybody can say they're a master.
Can I be a beer drinking master?
Oh, I'm a
There you
beer
go.
drinking master.
You got it.
You could be a
But,
debater.
kudos for being around for, going on 30 years, almost 30 years.
Yeah, I mean it's nice to know that we have the history. Nice to know that we've been able to push through any kind of issues or ups and downs in the industry. Still putting out solid beers, I think. And it again, to see everything and see all the new breweries and see all the new talent coming in and being able to work with those guys and still be considered is awesome. You know, you can easily get lost in the mix or you can easily make a mistake. And we're still here. We're still kicking, and hopefully we're bumping up the road a little bit.
Now, your original location in Lancaster, it's got some history behind it of where you guys are at.
Yep.
And you also have a tap room in Lancaster and one in Harrisburg.
Yep. So we have the downtown location, which is all of our production. We have our warehouse also around the corner from there as well. But we produce all but one brand, hopefully, at that location. We have the tap room, which we opened, I want to say about 8 years ago, over by Dutch Wonderland. So it's in a good spot there. And then we've had Harrisburg. It was actually the old Doc Holidays back in the day.
Yep.
So we were able to take that over, and they do amazing for us as well. So anywhere in this county or Dauphin County, obviously you can find our beer, no problem.
And the distribution is wide, so you can get it.
Yeah. It'd be nice to be a little more saturated, I guess. But yeah, anywhere you can find us. Unfortunately, sometimes you gotta call the wholesaler to find where it is because it can get lost in the mix a little bit somewhere out
I
there.
know one thing, DJs at Westgate here is from our go-to, one of our go-tos.
Oh, cool.
They always have it, and Fox's up the street here has it too.
Yep.
So
Good.
it's always readily available for us.
Good. And we do our best.
Yep.
To make sure it's everywhere as possible.
So being the brewmaster or the head of brewery operations, are any of the recipes your recipes, or they were all their recipes? You just brewed them, and how did you
No.
get to Lancaster Brewing?
So some are recipes that have been around for quite a while, but I have definitely nudged them in certain directions. I feel like so we've my rule is as long as we're improving, we're doing our job.
Yeah, you never want to stay stagnant.
Exactly, and obviously we don't want to go the other way either. So we've done our best to adapt to new styles coming out. When I started, I think we only had 12 beers on tap, and we had kind of the usual recipes. Now we put in, back in 19, we put in 20 taps, and I actually usually have 30 probably different offerings in package, and then we're constantly working on stuff. We have a Flemish red that we aged for 19 months in barrel that we only sell in one place. We have an Oud Brewing that we had on tap. We actually just took it off for a little to slide something else on that we aged for 3 years in barrel. So we throw out some cool traditionals, and we have our sours and Berliners, and I have a pina colada sour on right now. So we've done that. We've done the big smoothie sour. We did a peach beer. I might have added a little bit too much peach puree to it, but we have that. So I like to say that everything is kind of my recipe, but it's not without the previous brewers kind of base to it.
Right.
You know, I don't want to take any credit from them. Obviously, they've done a great job. One of the guys, Bill Moore, is actually still with us. Still sells beer in the Philly market for us.
Okay. So your history, you got a pretty good history list. And how did that wind you up getting into Lancaster?
Well, first and foremost, my wife is from Lancaster. She didn't want to shout out, but she's getting one anyway. John Hill, thank you.
There you go.
So all of her family's from the area, but so I started with Rock Bottom down in D.C. So I was at the Boston Common Mall in Arlington, and it's because I thought I wanted to be a hotel manager, and I did not like it after very long. And a good buddy of mine, Pete Velez, he's been all over the place as well. I think he just settled back on can sales. He's done the Hop Union Yakima Chief sales. He was the head brewery out at Sibling Revelry in Cleveland for a while. He was down at Founders for a while. He's kind of bounced around too. But he had gotten the job offer, and he had just been accepted to Harriet Watt in Edinburgh. So I showed up to my job interview in a 3-piece suit because I had just come from work, and apparently the brewmaster liked that. So, so started there, then worked with Rock Bottom Bethesda as well. Jeff Lively was the head brewer, might still be the head brewer there. Worked with him as a regional. Then moved down to Greensboro, North Carolina, was with Natty Green's Brewing Company. Then from there came up and was the head brewmaster at Swashbuckler up the road at the Renaissance Fair for almost 5 years. Getting winded here.
Are they still around, Swashbuckler?
Swashbuckler is still around. Yeah. They still produce everything for the Ren Fair. They do the same thing. They have a winery, they have a cidery, they have a distillery as well. So then from there, I moved up to Marley's up in Bloomsburg. So I worked with those guys for almost 3 years, and just got tired of the winter. And so I moved down to Florida for a few years and worked for a production contract facility called the Brew Hub. It's in Lakeland, in between Orlando and Tampa. And we produced for Cigar City, BJ's Restaurants, Toppling Goliath. I would say that was probably like the biggest kind of jump in my career, just to get all that input from all these different breweries and see all the different kind of recipes and different processes and the way different brewers can look at different things, you know, being qualitative versus quantitative. But worked with a bunch of good Florida breweries as well. Orange Blossom Pilsner. Got to develop some beers for like Disney, which was kind of cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
We did a beer for the Swan and Dolphin Hotel there, so that was fun. And then wife found out she was pregnant with our fourth, and it was right back home. And honestly, it was one of those. We had actually talked to Lancaster a few months before, and had decided to stay, and then we were like, hey, no, you know what, this just kind of works.
Planted your feet now.
Yeah, and I've been here, like I said, I've been here almost 8 years. Gotten to do a lot of fun things. Next one is a distillery, so we're gonna start making some hard alcohol. We're gonna do some single malt whiskey. We have some hop infused gins. We're gonna get into tequila, vodka, rum.
That is expanding the operation.
Oh yeah. We already have a few in the works. We're kind of doing like the Jameson cask-mate thing. So we had some tiramisu imperial stout that we had aged in rum barrels that we then filled with single malt whiskey. Ooh. And then we also had a wee heavy Scotch ale that we had in some bourbon barrels that we are now putting bourbon back into. We also have a couple other ones coming up. We're doing a maple smoked porter in bourbon barrels, and then
I don't know, but I'm getting damn thirsty.
And then we're also doing a sticky bun brown, so an oatmeal brown aged with pecans and raisins. Also,
I'm wiping the drool off my chin right now.
So, and the cool thing is we're going to constantly be producing new barrels to constantly do barrel aged beers, so that we can then put spirits back into. So it's going to be this cool little cycle of things, and the hop infused gins will be pretty cool too as well. We have a cucumber gin that we're going to infuse with Cascade, and an American dry gin that we're going to do with Amarillo.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's quite the repertoire there.
yeah, so it's like I said, it's been very cool to kind of work up and down the East Coast and work with some very cool people. But then to even see how what we know from brewing and everything like that, and how it's going to hopefully help us translate over to distilling as well. We're not trying to break the bank or like be number one or anything like that. We want to do what we want to do.
Yeah, you're looking at a different revenue stream, and you got it. You're trying to be sustainable.
Yeah.
Right.
So speaking of drinking, you just made me damn thirsty. So, what is our first beer going to be here, Mark?
So the first one we brought is our Cerveza, and of course on the label it says Cerveza beer, so it's beer. It is good traditional beer flavored beer made with rice and corn.
Again, nice and clear.
Malted barley. We do like our clear lagers. But it's honestly, it was one of those things we developed for a contract, and we just fell in love with it. Honestly, it's just a super easy, what I call lawnmower beer. Nice and light on the mouth, a little prickly from the carbonation, but it's got that kind of nice earthy floral note from the pearl hops that we use in it. And like I said, it's one of my favorites. It's my go-to.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To Lancaster Brewing Cerveza. It's nice malt forward with a little citrus end. And is that what you're going for?
Yeah. Like I said, citrus, floral, herbal.
Floral, yeah.
Yeah, and everybody's palate's going to pick something different up.
And it depends on what you ate that day, what you drank that day. Your palate constantly is evolving.
Yeah, what do people say? You got to watch. They got to cleanse their palate. Oh, you know how I cleanse my palate?
With another
With
beer.
the next fucking beer.
What I like about it.
I'm a smoker. I like coffee.
Me too.
As long as your palate's the same, or you almost have a routine to it, then that's fine too. Chefs like palate cleansers or sorbet in between. Lemon water.
You were going to say what you like about it?
The initial taste, it's smooth. It's, I don't know, the initial feeling of it is soft.
It's very crushable.
It's nice.
Like, what'd you call it? A lawnmower beer?
Yeah, lawnmower beer. It's one of those you can just like sit there and drink. And
Or like Josh from Seven Sirens called them shower beers.
Shower beers.
Shower beers.
I had to ask him, what the hell is that? He said, well, I like your lawnmower beer, but I like to drink them in the shower.
On vacation, they're shower beers.
Right.
That's very good.
It is good.
It's very easy drinking, and again, nice and clear.
And like I always say, I think it was Jim Gaffigan who went around, did a whole thing on like craft beers for a while, and he's like, I don't need your Tootsie Roll flavored beer or your, vanilla bomb beer. Like, I want a beer flavored beer, and that's what this one is. It's just a beer flavored beer.
Yeah. So most time when you hear Cerveza, you're going to get you're going to think like a Corona, something Mexican lager that's got a little bit citrus or lime flavoring to it.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm getting a nice malt forward and then a little citrus on the end following it through. It makes it a nice, pleasing drinking beer. So kudos.
Thank you.
So of all the stuff you've done, what made you really get into this venture? And has this always been your full-time gig besides the restaurant management thing that you said you didn't like?
Yes, this has honestly been my full-time career for 22 years now. It's kind of cool to say that, like, how much has come to my life because of beer, whether it's meeting new people, new friends, celebrities, new work adventures, collaborations, whatever it is, even meeting my wife, because of beer. My kids, they run around the brewery like, oh, this is our spot,
Playground, huh?
You're just visiting. So everything in my life for the past 22 years has been because of beer. I did try in the very beginning. I was trying to do both the hotel thing and brew as well, and it just got to the point the hotel thing wasn't worth it anymore. It's not lucrative in any way, shape, or form. I'm not a millionaire by being in the industry for as long as I have. But like I said, it's just fun. We're
It is
constantly creating, getting to work with new people, constantly evolving. There's new processes, there's new equipment, there's new techniques. I'm working with my hands, not sitting behind a desk, even though I do have to sit behind a desk and do the numbers and the ordering and all that kind of fun stuff. But it's almost like it's instant gratification. You know, when I go and do something and somebody takes a sip of that beer, I can immediately tell by the look on their face whether they appreciate it, they are wondering what the hell it is, wondering where to go next, or they truly enjoyed it. And you know, I think of it like anything else, where it obviously it instills some sort of memory or some sort of association that is going to bring you to a happy place, or it's not. So our goal is to help with that. But in the end, it's also us. Just we make beer we like to drink, and we hope you like it too.
Yeah. And
So far,
so far.
And
like
don't worry, we'll find one eventually you won't like. But
Well, I think that's everybody is that way. You're going to find a beer that it's okay,
yeah,
but it's not your palate.
and that's
yeah.
I actually got approval a long time ago, and I haven't really taken on it. Obviously, the Untapped ratings are always amazingly fun for every brewer that's out there. You know, to kind of roast people. We haven't really taken an act on it, but my favorite is always, you know, I hate IPAs, and they gave us a 1, and it's like, wait, you hated the IPA. You hate IPAs in general. Shouldn't you give me a 5 because we did exactly what we were supposed to make you hate that IPA?
I never heard that before,
Right.
but yeah, you might. You're onto
Hey,
something there.
just think about it.
Like Dave's going to rate every IPA in a sour 5s.
See, there you hate them that much, then they did exactly what they were supposed to. If you don't like that one,
Come on, say something.
No.
it's honestly it's okay. We have distributors out there that go, oh, it's a sour. Don't even send it my way.
Yeah.
So-
I've had a few IPAs that were tolerable that I've drank, and a couple that tasted pretty good. But in general, most of the time, IPAs are just not my cup of tea. And I try not to have a predetermined thought about what I'm drinking.
Yeah.
With an IPA, someone hands me, say, here you go. It's a West Coast IPA, lots of hops and everything. I'm done.
Yeah, you already shut the door.
I have already shut the
And when somebody that used to drinking the mass-produced beer, like
Right.
the Buds
Oh,
or
yeah.
Miller Lights or something, and you say craft beer, the first thing that pops in their mind is hoppy.
Yeah,
It's the first thing that pops in their mind, and it's like, no. There is a ton of craft beer that is true to style,
yeah,
maybe true to style with a twist. And it comes from, like you're saying, the instant gratification that you guys can create something from a style of beer and make it your own.
yeah.
And will somebody like it? Instant gratification.
Exactly. And I kind of look at that same thing of there's a generation of people coming off of PBR. That's honestly my favorite, like micro or macro beer.
And there was
I'll
a time
drink-
you couldn't find that shit on the shelf.
Yeah.
Because to me it is shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, and then you have another generation of beer, like of drinkers that have basically come into
Right.
the evolution of craft beers, and there's a way to go there too. And then you have all these new generation coming into it as well, and everybody's got their own perception of what a craft beer is or should be, or is it hipster, is it retired, is it any other possibility. I took a lot of what I learned in my first few years of brewing with Rock Bottom, and their concept was always just to make session beers. And by session, it's not, it's 3% or 4% or whatever, but the idea is to get you to sit down and enjoy more than one, to have a drinking session. So as much as we can produce a 13% beer or an 8% beer or 9%, our goals kind of hit in between that. Now, I will say at the same point, all the beers we produced in our first few years, or my first few years of manufacturing, was 5% or above. You did not go below 5%. That was the rule. The craft beer was 5% or more because everything else was lower than that. Now, I mean, I love making an English mild that's like 3.7. We get crap for our dry Irish stout because it's only 3.7. You're like, well, hold on. Guinness has been doing this for decades. Centuries.
Centuries, yeah.
Centuries.
I mean, and that's the thing. That's a misconception with a stout or a porter.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody sees because it is a dark beer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's heavy. No,
Yeah.
it's actually light.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But more than anything, craft we're trying to replicate these ancient beer styles. And I don't want to say ancient necessarily, but traditional styles in multiple places all over the world. I mean, it's not just the U.S. Europe is now trying to make a craft version of what they've been doing for so long. Even getting into South America, there's a lot of great microbreweries down there, even Mexico, that are producing phenomenal IPAs. It was an interesting transition of we spent all this time in craft trying to replicate tradition, and now tradition is trying to replicate craft. But it really is this. Craft is just because we're a certain size at this point.
That's
more
all that
than
matters.
Anything else.
It depends on your distribution or how big your production is where they put you, micro, macro, and then mass.
Craft is up to, even that point. So you've got you've got different levels even within micro and macro, up to 60,000 barrels, you're one level, and over 60,000, I think up to 2 million is another level, and then over 2 million is another level. So you've got craft, micro, and macro. But I still feel like all of us are trying to do the same thing. We want to make a product that we're happy with that we can constantly replicate. Mm-hmm. So the bigger guys just have more bells and whistles than we do, so it makes it difficult. And obviously, you're going to notice more in a smaller batch. You're going to notice more from one Tarrant, 5-barrel batch to a 5-barrel batch, or a 10 to a 10, or even 30 to 30, or 60 to 60. And then obviously you start getting hundreds and 200s and 500s and thousands, and it's much easier to notice something in something small than it would be to something big, large. Right. So even the big guys, they make mistakes. They have variances and all that kind of stuff. They're still doing the same thing we are on a lower level. They just don't notice it as much in the grand scheme of things.
And sometimes a new beer comes from a mess up from a recipe that didn't come out the way you wanted it. And now you got a new style beer.
You just took one of our secrets. I mean, that's where new styles come from sometimes. It didn't quite work out, or it's not what you wanted it to be, so we'll just call it something else. But I mean, and on the other side of things too, there have been plenty of beers where we couldn't even call it something else, and we just had to bite the bullet and dump it.
Yeah, I've dumped a 5-gallon batch. I can't imagine, and we didn't really. What is your production facility? What's your barrel system?
So we're a 15-barrel brew house. Okay. We have 14 30-barrel fermenters and 3 30-barrel brights, and then we have in-house canning as well.
And I guess you need that to keep up with the distribution that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's draft or can. I mean, we used to contract out a lot. We work with the Lion Brewery. We've worked with Susquehanna Brewing. Like I said, there's still certain brands. Our pumpkin, we work with FX Matt, which is Saranac up in Utica, New York. Mm-hmm. There's certain things that we just are unable to do. But since I've kind of been there, we've tried to bring as much of that back in, because rule number one is contract brewing is you don't make any money in contract brewing.
No. You're getting paid very minimum for your labor.
Yeah, so the idea obviously is to maximize profit, I guess, while reducing cost on the business side of things. But God, I kind of brain farted there for a second. So we're at about 8 to 10,000 barrels annual production.
Wow,
and we do. I would say we do all but. I mean, this year especially, we probably do all but 2,000.
Wow.
In-house, so we're cruising as much as we can. But I have a good staff too, and it's taken 8 years to get there. But I have some good guys. I have a great lead brewer named Jordan. who, like I said, was with me, then left, and then came back, which was kind of cool. I got a great brewer named Bailey, who has worked his way up from keg cleaning all the way up. We work with Penn College up in Williamsport. We got a great guy named Adam that came in as my lead packaging. I got a buddy of mine who used to work for Rolex who took over our warehouse management. A driver that's been with us kind of on and off for a while doing logistics, and actually a good buddy of mine I've known for 17 years. His name's Tim. He was the head brewer at Cox Brewing. He's going to come on and work with us as our distiller.
So I'm going to back up for a minute. Penn College in Williamsport.
Yep.
They have a brewing place up. They teach brewing.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. So Tim.
I didn't know that.
Oh, I want to say Tim from Elk Creek. I'm not going to say his last name because I don't want to mess it up. But Tim from Elk Creek has been basically the head of that program for a while, and they have the guys from New Trail on. I actually just am finishing up with another intern from up there. His name's Ethan. Yeah, they have a great program, and we've worked with them pretty well over the past few years. So you see that more and more too. Schools are just popping up with brewing programs because they know kids want to do it, and there's as much as there's the art to it, there's the business to it too. And
it's not just going, hey, I'm going to brew a beer.
Yeah,
there's a whole lot more to go.
Or I'm going to go open my own brewery.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And we were talking off camera. With my industry, if somebody asked about buying or opening a shop, no, dude, run.
Yeah,
Run. No, it's more. And you had mentioned before that you're not lucrative at this business. You're making a decent living and you're happy.
Yep.
And me being in the automotive business, you're going to work for yourself. You're going to be, dude. I'm not rich by any means.
I don't dissuade people from starting breweries, but just know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
You were going to say something, Kev. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, part A of the question is, what is your favorite? And then part B is, did you ever do like a collab or something that, hey, this tastes pretty good. I kind of like this instead.
The collab side.
Okay.
I like collabs and I don't like collabs. I like collabs because it's great to get together with friends. I don't like collabs because most of the time the collabs that are out there aren't doing what they're meant for. You find a lot of local guys doing collabs together, and then all you're doing is competing. Whereas if you branch out, and it's a little bit more difficult to branch out to another brewery from another state or something like that, and collab with them, then ideally they help you and you help them. I've done a few out there. And like I said, they're good times. They're fun. It's fun to see, but I don't think any collab out there. And I'm probably gonna get roasted for this one. I don't think any collab out there is really breaking the boundaries of what brewers can do. It's always interesting to see what a guy will do or a company will do, and like I said, whether it's process or just recipe development or whatever it is, it's cool to see that. But I feel like people just need to. I don't want to say stop the collab. That's not the right thing to say.
And I could edit anything out you want.
Well, I hope you're going to edit some of this out. It's fun to see the evolution and the innovation.
That's what I was getting at.
As opposed to necessarily seeing just breweries going together.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does actually.
Okay. And then favorite brewery, beer, style?
Whatever.
Anything.
Yeah, what do you prefer? I mean, whether it's yours or somebody else's, what's your favorite?
I mean, I go back to the old days of the first IPA I ever had that I liked was Big Daddy IPA from Speakeasy. They're not around anymore. I always go back to Bear Republic Racer 5 as one of my favorites. Unfortunately, what you get out there isn't always the best. But styles, I just don't drink dark beers while I drink a dark beer on the side. I don't drink heavy dark beers quite as much, or I'll have one. I like PBR. I like any good Pilsner. I like any good lager. I like most fest beers. I like a solid hazy, but they can blend.
Right.
What's the difference between this hazy and this hazy? So I like hazies that are trying to use some new hops, new yeast strains. I mean, I think on our hazy beer, we've probably used 5 different yeast strains over the years trying to figure out which was the right one for us. But I like beer. I like all beer.
And you brought up something right there. A lot of people don't realize that not only is it the malts and the water. The water is a huge part of this.
Absolutely.
Whatever water you use, it makes the better beer. But whatever hops you're going to put into it are bringing something to it.
Right.
But the yeast, you got to find the right yeast that's going to mix with that beer to get the final product. A lot of people don't realize that the yeast is probably one of the most important parts of the beer brewing process.
I mean, we always say we just make sugar.
Yeah.
The yeast is what makes the beer, for the most part. But there's a lot more to it than just even flavor profile. It's how does it work with your system? How does it work with your production? How do you have to look at like tank turn times, that kind of stuff? How does it flocculate out? Does it flocculate out? Does it react poorly or beneficially with other additives that you're going to add later? Whether, and even to the point of how is it going to react with the hops, more than anything else. For the most part, we've, like I said, and this is one of the things where I think is going to help us with distilling as well. We have some fermentation experience under our belt. Any brewer does, to understand how to manipulate that fermentation to get us the final product that we want. So you have to know the yeast that you can kind of work with
Right.
the best to give you your desired result.
And I found it interesting about your facility, where it's at, that you guys are doing something that you're being energy sustainable. However, you capture your rain runoff, I guess you want to call it.
So we have a cistern basically attached to our building. We do everything we can to capture as much rainwater as possible. And then we have a garden basically that runs along Walnut Street that we then use that water to obviously take care of all those plants, which then obviously helps with the environment. We contract all of our electric through wind power companies. Obviously, we don't have a turbine sitting on the building, but we do our best to do everything there. We have natural irrigation. We look at high efficiency boiler systems and heating systems for our brew house. And then obviously we do everything we can to reuse water as much as possible. And honestly, the distillery is even going to help with that as well. We'll actually see less and less waste. Anything that may not be totally to spec for us is obviously something that we can go ahead and distill down and eventually send to sanitizer companies or even just do as a grain neutral spirit, which would allow us to then even produce more. So our goal is to obviously waste as much as possible. We also work with a local farmer who takes all of our spent grain. Every brewery does. I'm not going to say we're special because we do that. But we have a symbiotic relationship with agriculture. We work with them just as much as they work with us. So the idea is to just be as sustainable and environmentally friendly as possible. And I think we do a decent job of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got another beer sitting in front of us here.
We do.
This is a seasonal release.
Yeah, so we release this every spring. We do tend to carry it year round anyway, but the big release is every March. This is our Blue Trail Lemon Blueberry Shandy. I think it rivals Leinenkugel. I think it's better than Leinenkugel.
So explain what a shandy. What's different about a shandy?
I don't even necessarily want to say traditionally. Traditionally, English would mix beer with lemonade. And that's what this is, just like the Germans would do a Radler, which was beer and grapefruit juice. Yeah. So kind of just that same take on, light, easy drinking, super crushable. Obviously, in a lot of hops you see anyway, you have some sort of citrus flavor, but we use lemon juice. We back sweeten this, and we add a little bit of blueberry to it, and it is alcoholic lemonade In the grand scheme of things, it really is.
The blueberry.
So a lawnmower beer in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
It's more of a pool beer.
Pool
It's
beer.
honestly, it's really anything beer. You
Yeah.
can drink it in the winter too. It just goes down super easy.
I could smell it.
Yeah.
And like I said, this always brings me back to my head brewer. He was one of those guys where he would drink the 10-ounce beers, and he would just do it with Sprite at the time, or we'd take our Kolsch, he'd hit it with the Sprite, and he'd just throw it back. And he'd do like 15 of those a day, and you're like, oh, hey, buddy, like, slow down. It's like, they're shandies. They're fine. So,
Question before we break off, though.
yeah.
You guys are big enough that, like you have that one beer that you're not quite sure if it's, good,
Yeah.
bad. Do you bring it out to the restaurant and say, hey, try this, and what do you think?
So with any beer that we do goes through a process before we release it out. We have plenty of like I said, we have 20 beers on tap,
Right.
sometimes 30 in package that never leave the building. The idea is to do a small batch, see how it goes. We can do a 15-barrel batch. We can do a 30-barrel batch. We can do anything in between there. I haven't really pushed it much lower than that. But if it's good enough for in-house, we see those sales and people like it and they ask for it, then we'll go to the next step. And we'll work with our local wholesaler first, which is Serena Kirkner. And then, we see how we do in our local market. And then after we do the local market, we'll see how we kind of go from there. But I would say anything that does substantially, and I'm not going to say substantially well, reasonably well, will at least be in the state of Pennsylvania. It's tougher for out of state to push those new brands sometimes. But yes, we sometimes we find stuff and it goes, hey, this is great. And other times we do stuff and it didn't go so good, or maybe it hung around a little bit too long.
Right.
We make this fantastic chili smoked Baltic porter. It's delicious. It's 9%. It's got the right amount of heat from the guajillo peppers and the chipotle peppers, but we would never release it because it won't go anywhere outside of our building. Nobody would drink it.
To the Blue Trail.
Blue Trail.
Blue Trail.
There you go.
Oh, my gosh.
Blue Trail. Lemon blueberry shandy. Cheers.
Okay.
Cheers. So I'll actually give you the story behind Blue Trail is, so the appellation is actually the blue marker.
Okay.
So that's where Blue Trail comes from. And then part of this was when we originally brought this beer out, we were donating to the Parkinson's Foundation because a guy that used to hike the Appalachian for Parkinson's, that's where we got it from. So Blue Trail.
Okay. Blue Trail.
I have to get my son to listen to this part of his.
Yeah, go ahead.
He hiked the
The whole thing.
whole thing.
Oof.
Yeah, and
I think I did it when I was in high school. We did just from, I think, just Delaware through New Jersey up to the New York border. And then that was it. And that was like a week and a half, 2 weeks or something like that. So
he was gone for 6 months.
yeah, I can imagine. There's one right.
It was
There's
Dave's-
a woman that goes up and down
Yes.
That was Dave's best 6 months.
all the way from Maine, all the way down to Georgia, and then back up again. That's all she does.
I just saw that, actually. You say that.
Yeah, I forget. She's got a name. Obviously, she has a name, but yeah, she's apparently been doing it for like past 20, 30 years.
Oh my God!
Just back and forth, up and down.
Strong marriage with her gone all the time.
I imagine she's single.
That or she's very lucrative and doesn't have to worry about working a job.
Yeah.
More power to her, but my big question would be why. I mean,
I could see my
Yeah.
wife drinking this.
Again, it's smooth going in. So, and then you get that hit at the end.
Yeah, I get that citrus tang.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it.
That cool, refreshing drink.
I will say I'm not a fan of like huge. Well, and again, it depends on the style, but the huge upfront bitterness is very off-putting.
And
You don't want to suck on a penny right before you suck on a lemon, I guess. But
nothing.
yeah, right. But that super upfront bitterness can be very off-putting, and it takes away from everything else because your palate is just crushed by bitterness upfront. So,
Well, you didn't want to hear the nickel story?
Now I'm going to turn your mic down here a little bit to off.
I kind of want to hear the nickel story, but no, we'll save it for another time.
We'll save that for another time.
So the distillery part,
Yeah.
is that on the shelves, or is there like a grand opening? How? I'm not
So the reason we haven't made much of a push on it is because we have actually had to change heating systems.
Okay.
For our hot liquor tank more than anything else. Our brew house is far enough away, being a direct fire, that the alcohol vapor issue and explosion proof aspect isn't as much of a deal. Again, it's an old building, so trying to bring new equipment in, we had to move old equipment. So not only have we had to replace our heating system there, put in a boiler, get some welding done, we now have to move tanks, and we have these big, I want to say they're like 12 by 16 beams that are pretty much holding the outside of the wall to the building. We have to remove those and then move 2 of the tanks onto the other side. And, as soon as I know a grand opening, our goal currently is to have it in the building at least by the end of February.
Nice.
And like I said, it's been a year and a half plus just getting to this point. And then now I get to take over and kind of run with the rest of it. So ideally, we'll move a little bit faster. We do have stuff aging in barrels. We do have stuff in-house ready to be packaged. It's just kind of that final walkthrough. Mm-hmm. But we are Lancaster Craft Spirits. And like I said, single malt whiskey, bourbon, gin, and vodka will be our first releases.
So tell us a little bit about the owner. Is it owner or owners? It looks like it's been in the family for some time.
So owner family, I guess is better. It's Pete Kears, which is part of the Keary's restaurant group. They own Gibraltar. We recently acquired the brasserie. They were the guys that owned Doc Holliday's back in the day. Christian Heim was the original founder in '94. He was working with the Kears Group as kind of the restaurant management company, trying to keep things separate a little bit. They had joined in 2001, which is, like I said, when we changed from Lancaster Malt Brewing to Lancaster Brewing Company. And then in 2009, I want to say, the Kears Group bought out Christian as the primary owners. So the Kears Group was a family operation, but Pete is our president, CEO. And then his brother Nick also runs Harrisburg in the tap room as well, and then also has input, obviously, in the way the business goes. So, family.
That's cool.
Family owned for a while. Yeah. So, and it's been fun.
What's your goal and aspirations going forward?
I was just going to, yeah, perfect.
I've been in the industry too long to think that owning a brewery is a good idea. I'd love to own my own. I have probably 4 or 5 different business plans that I've created over the years, depending on where I lived or where the industry was or what I wanted to do, and I still have aspirations to do that, but it's got to be the perfect storm kind of thing. I still look at the other aspect of it of I need to make sure my family's taken care of, and I don't want to mortgage my house to keep a brewery alive. So I don't know. I'd love to say I know. I don't know. Right now, I'm going to stick with Lancaster. I'm going to take a crack at making liquor, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome. I think that's great. I mean, you're coming from a brewing background, and now you're going to go into the distilled world,
opening up that portfolio. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, my biggest thing is I should always be learning. I should always be evolving, just like the industry is. And as long as I continue my education, I wasn't one of those guys that went to brewing school. I did it the old school way. Assistant brewer, regional assistant brewer, head brewer, master brewer, whatever. Head of brewery operations, back to lead brewer, even though I was still a head brewer, and then back to head of brewery operations again. It's been the old-fashioned way of working under qualified guys.
Yeah,
know?
you learn as you go.
Yeah.
And I think you get a better education that way.
Yeah. And so throughout all that, and I know there's other guys even in the county that have run through that same kind of thing. There's ups and downs. You're going to see positives. You're going to see negatives. And as much fun as it would be to own my own and not have anybody to answer to, if we have the right owners, which I feel like I do right now, we're able to work where I can still get all that.
Yeah.
I can still create what I want to create and do what I want to do. And as long as it's beneficial for both of us, then we're both perfectly happy.
Right.
And then the distilling side of it is something I was not planning on taking on at all. But we've had some fun, kind of doing some pilot batches over the past year. And I think we'll do pretty good, honestly. It'll be fun to see what everybody else thinks. So
We're going to have to maybe get, I don't know, do you know Arvin down at Thistlefinch?
no, I don't, but we're probably going to start talking a little bit more here in the future, I imagine.
I guess say we'll hook you up with Arvin.
Yeah.
He's definitely a smart cookie when it comes to the distilling process.
And we know Dave up at Hidden Still, so we stock his
We're trying to
products
still
as well.
get those guys to say yes.
Again, I can make some phone call. We can try. I know Dave's a busy guy. I feel like he's ever expanding lately, which is awesome for him.
That's
so.
good news, though.
Yeah.
If you're not busy, I'm not saying that there's a problem, but
Oh no,
know.
I mean you're absolutely right. He's moving in the right direction,
Right.
And that's all that really matters. So
And I think, even us, if we're just doing a small batch like our little homebrew, I got an issue or a question, I can call somebody that we've had as a guest and, hey, try this.
yeah.
That's what's awesome about this. I mean, even in my industry, we're not competitors. You are, but you're not.
That I would absolutely agree. And that's one of those
There
things.
is a community built around us.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying too, with like the collab part of we have to remember we're still competitors.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we have to be mean to each other either. We all work together. I have guys call me, hey, I need some yeast, or like even within the Lancaster County Brewers Guild, like, hey, anybody got some hops? Or I'll always throw out too, like, hey, I have extra. If anybody needs anything, or like I've got a batch of yeast where I'm just not using it after this. It's only like third generation. Anybody wants some, just let me know. Even the aspect of, and I know a lot of us don't like to admit, like we might run into a stalled fermentation or something like that, with the ability to talk it out with other brewers. And I think we do that more when we're in person than when we're just kind of talking to each other. But at least we all know that channel is open, and that nobody's going to be like, oh, you screwed that shit up, and you're a crappy brewer. Deal with it. So we're always looking for the common good, I think. Because what benefits one of us usually benefits all of us.
So I know by the time this episode's released, the NFL season is pretty much going to be over. You're a Giants fan, but your hockey season may be still going on. So how are the Devils doing?
They're playing well. They just beat the Blackhawks. 2 nights ago? No, it was last night. Yeah, they beat the Blackhawks 4-2. Yeah, I mean, for the Giants, a long time ago, I would have just played for draft picks, personally. But then, hey, you pull a guy out of his parents' basement, and he starts doing really well for you, and then you bench him, and you kind of keep going down that road again. So it was super cool for Danny DeVito, to be able to come and play. He probably made more in those 5-6 games than he did for the past 3 years coming off the practice squad.
Sure. We're not talking Danny DeVito from Taxi, are we?
No.
He's doing sub commercials now.
That'd be an interesting one, right? But no, he like I said, the Giants, if they win their first 3 games, I know they're done. They might as well just stop. And if they lose their first 3, I always say, we're making a run for the Super Bowl this year. So they lost 2 and then they won 1. So we've kind of figured we were going to be here. But I feel like any other team, there's a lot of injuries there. But yeah, Devils are playing well. They got the Hughes brothers. They're doing good. But same thing. They kind of start good. Even last year they had a great season and then made it to the playoffs and out second round. So
I don't watch much hockey, so I couldn't tell you anything about it.
I'm in and out.
Baseball is once baseball's done, I don't watch much of sports. So basketball, football, other than Penn State sucking, or hockey, I don't watch any of that.
I gotcha. Yeah, my kids love. I don't know. Those are my two sports. I went to a school that didn't have football, so that was tough. So I went to the University of Denver. We're usually like top 10 hockey NCAA,
yeah.
top 10.
So you played?
Roller hockey and like intramural, yeah, but no. I played soccer growing up, and then, like I said, played a little bit of roller hockey and some intramural ice hockey, and then did plenty of skiing and snowboarding growing up. But
Not much you're doing around this area.
Not lately. Actually, I just had a buddy who was up the other day though, so there's some snow, but it's all man made.
Yeah, and I've skied round top. It is what it is. It's good for this area.
Yeah.
At least it gets you on the hill. I wouldn't want to be in that business because last year was average 40-some degrees. It was probably bad.
Right.
And now that Vail bought that whole system out.
So they're part of the Epic system.
I wouldn't now be able to afford to go.
You can't afford to even go to like Seven Springs nowadays. When I was in college, it was $300 for a 3-mountain seasonal pass.
Yeah.
It was A Basin, Keystone, and Breckenridge, which was awesome. I mean,
They're terrible, man. That's some good mountain there.
yeah, I was up 192 days the first year I was out in college, and then even after that, nowadays it's like $120 I think to go for a day at like Seven Springs.
Wow.
Well, yeah,
And
I think,
don't quote me on that, but I know it's pretty bad. Even I think
was-
Liberty's even like 60 or 70.
I was getting, we were getting nightclub passes, which you could go every night and on weekends. I think it was like $240 for the season.
In high school, Camelback was $17 for night skiing on Thursdays.
Wow.
It was awesome.
Camelback was pretty fun. I
Yeah.
enjoyed that. I did enjoy going out skiing because, we never did that until I met my wife and her kids. But it was a good family outing. We could all go out to the mountain and enjoy ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
The kids go off and do something. I'm on the slow slope. When I try and get on the Black Diamond, I'm on my ass.
I'm in the bar.
Me too. Me too.
They call that après ski.
So I tell you what, we've had a great time having you sit here, Mark. You've been a wealth of knowledge, and
Absolutely.
I don't know how old you are. We're not gonna divulge into that, but you have got a wealth of experience coming into this, and kudos. I mean, you guys are putting out some good stuff. Anything coming up in the springtime, March, April?
So obviously we had talked about Shandy release will be in March. Not only are we doing our regular Blue Trail, we're going to be doing a raspberry Blue Trail version as well.
That sounds good.
We actually have it on tap right now in the restaurant as our test batch, but we'll be canning some of that. Obviously, with it being the year of the lager, we are releasing a lager variety pack about that same time in March, which is going to be the Cerveza, our Amber Lager, and our Lancaster Lager, which all three we produce year-round, but most people don't get to ever try it because we only keep it for in-house. So
Sounds like we're going to Lancaster Brewing.
Yeah.
When's the Irish Red coming?
Celtic, also, God, you just reminded me of that. I better start making that one. No, that usually comes out at the same time, about mid-February, for about a month prior to St. Patrick's Day. We did a dry Irish stout this year as well.
Oh, shit.
For that, I like more of a Beamish style as opposed to a Guinness style. And then what else?
Help me on that. The
Beamish versus Guinness.
Yeah.
Beamish tends to be a little bit sweeter, a little bit more of like an
American stout almost.
almost just on nitro,
Okay.
but it's still that low alcohol percentage.
Okay.
Guinness tends to be very. All right, and another way to look, Beamish is more chocolate based, whereas dry Irish or Guinness stout tends to be more roast based.
Okay.
There's just a little bit of variation to them. I've been in Northern Ireland. I never went to the Guinness distillery, but I've drank in plenty of Guinness being in Northern Ireland. Fresh, it's fantastic. I don't even think the 7-step pour is necessary. Like the 3-4 step pour is super cool. But it is a delicious beer. Beamish is just kind of like its cousin.
And that you
Super
mentioned
drinkable.
that not everybody can pour a good stout, especially a Guinness.
It's definitely an art.
It is an art.
I mean, even the ambassadors out there have to go through like training to pour a proper Guinness. I don't have the hand stability to do the clover thing. I try all the time. It never works. It looks like something else.
I think the first time I had a bartender, female, pour me a Guinness, she put the little heart on the top.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, she fucking wants me.
And then I woke up.
And then I saw it on the guy next to me. I was like, ah, shit. There just went that bubble.
You feel that way at strip clubs too.
I love it. My kind of video here.
That's always the fun one, like that buddy that's always like, oh, she wants me.
Until you stop throwing dollar bills
Yeah.
on her, right? Oh, I tell you what, we've had a great time. We definitely will have to make our way over, to the main brew house. That's where we would like to come.
Absolutely.
What's the difference between the main building, the Lancaster tap room, and the Harrisburg? Is it the food and beverage the same across all three?
No, so that's actually kind of the cool thing. So we do have some similarities on the menu, but we do have some different dishes on each one. So we have the most beers on tap at 20. The tap room has 16, and Harrisburg has 14. A different ambiance. Obviously, like ours is a building from 1895. Super cool. Looks huge from the outside, but it's actually relatively small on the inside because that's also where our production brewery is. Harrisburg, huge, awesome. But still very inviting. Tap room's just a little bit smaller. It's kind of in a corporate restaurant kind of setting all around. But it's just kind of a nice little small kind of hole in the wall place. It does really well for us over there. So
Good. Any last comments you want to share, Mark?
It's been fun. Definitely. It's been you guys are like the first podcast I've done in a while. I think in person. I've done the Zoom meetings or whatever. So.
Yeah.
Definitely been fun, and I really appreciate you guys having us in. So
We appreciate you coming over here from Lancaster to sit in with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dave, any comments?
No, nothing new. Nothing additional. You guys
You've been
have
kind of quiet all night.
Well, every once in a while I do I do stay quiet and let you guys handle the limelight, so to speak. You can't always have the special camera on me all the time,
next time.
Kevin?
Now, best of luck with the distillery. That's Dave and I's favorite.
That's
Cool.
it's out of my league.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be over to try it.
Like I said, it should be fun. The end of February. Ideally, all the equipment will be in place, and then we get to start bottling and selling as soon as the good old PLCB walks through.
Sure.
But then we've got some other really fun ideas, and like I said, my buddy from Cox coming down, he's done some personal distilling, so he's got some great ideas, great input.
Yeah. No, overall, thank you. I know my wife and I have been at the restaurant a few times and always enjoyed it. We don't get that way too far. Seems like Christmas we'll get to the outlets and we always head over there. And
So the tap room is right at the outlet.
I know.
But the one downtown's more fun.
It is.
In my
That's the
opinion.
one we go to. Yeah.
So we do have one more beer sitting here, Mark. So tell us a little bit about this last beer.
So this is our Crazy Haze, hazy IPA. I want to say it's 6.5% brewed with Simcoe Mosaic. I feel like the hazy beer has been kind of the bane of our existence for the past few years.
It started as in New England.
Yeah, so New England.
Now then they put like lactose and they call them hazies now or whatever.
Yeah, well, and then they became murky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I was going to ask
it
that.
it is hazy.
Hazy. That's what I like to say. But there's been, again, it's been really cool to be part of this evolution of this style and trying to figure out process. And after 3 years of dealing with it, we basically overthought it for 3 years. It's not nearly as complicated to get stable haze in there as you would think. And we've gone down many different roads trying to figure it out. And so this is pretty much the precursor to our next small batch IPA series. that we're working with our distributors in the Philly area. It's Penn Distributing, so they took over Gratz, they took over Allentown, and they're pretty much everything from Lancaster County east of us. But we're going to start doing some small batch series where we're going to focus on 2 varieties of hops in each one, same base of beer. We're not trying to change the world. So the first one, this one is Simcoe Mosaic, but our first one is actually going to be Citra Triumph, which we had done a small test batch of previously. Wasn't as happy with the result as what we've seen with this. So we're taking everything we've learned from this one and creating this small batch series that we're going to start doing in 16-ounce cans quarterly. So keep an eye out for that as well. We'll have them in Lancaster as well after that. But our goal is to finally figure out this damn hazy beer.
Well, Mark, we appreciate you coming over here, sitting down. Tell us once again, last, where they can find you, even though I got it above us up here. Locations, social media, website.
Sure. So website, lancasterbrewing.com, Instagram, Lancaster Brewing Co. Obviously, you can find us on Facebook. Distribution anywhere in the state of Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and D.C. Any of our 3 locations. So we have Harrisburg, the tap room, and our downtown production facility. And then, like I said, distillery products, Lancaster Distilling Co. Lancaster Craft Spirits. We will have those hopefully available in the next couple months.
All right, so we look forward to that. So, again, we appreciate you coming out here. We hope 2024 brings you guys nothing but joyous and prosperity. Make sure you get out there to see Lancaster Brewing. Give us a like and subscribe wherever you get your social media, podcast, audio, whatever. But if you're out there, we're going to cheers out here with the Crazy Haze.
Yep, Crazy Haze.
From Lancaster Brewing. And if you're out there, let's raise a glass with Mark from Lancaster Brewing and Kevin, Dave, and myself. And let's all be bonded by beer. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.